unfortunately, I have an appointment in Washington at the same time. I met Marge when I was working at the Cuba Visitor Center. She would come in and tell all about her adventures, her legacy, and tell me stories about her jewelry she was wearing. She was such a delight, and I enjoyed her so much. I did not know her as long as most of you did, but in a short time, I thought so much of her. I was acquainted with Tom also. He was such a sweetie. So that was from Betty Smith, everything.
Who is that from on the side?
Betty Smith.
Oh.
Don Smith's wife and everything. Well, just a few basics, and then Jill has all the fun stories. But Marge and Merle just were married in 1951. Then in 52, they moved to Cuba, and Flemming Manufacturing, that was a spin-off of the family company in St. Louis, moved also. I was going to ask Ray, I think one of the reasons they moved is Cuba had a building. I think that's right, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, they moved. Of course, Flemming, as you all know, made industrial machines for concrete and paving industry. And our view was confirmed by the daughter, by her Kathy. But from the start, when Flemming moved here, Marge Flemming was the CEO. Merle was great in sales, people, relationships, but Marge was behind the scenes, hiring, firing, making the decisions, and frankly, I think they were a great team. You all may know, but Merle passed away very suddenly in May of 1980. Marge, continued on running the company. And then in 1987, their son Bill came in and took over. And shortly thereafter, Marge moved back to Glendale, which was her original home. But Cuba was always in her heart, and most of her focus, even in those days, was on Cuba. So, go through the basics. I got my share of good stories. But Jill, do you want to tell a story or two, or wherever you want to start here?
Marge and Merle were dear friends, but even though there was an age difference too. But anyway, they had a was it her uncle who was the lock master on the Rito Waterway?
Well, Merle's I think it was Merle's grandfather.
Yeah.
His grandfather
was a lock master on the Rito Waterway, which I looked it up to be sure this morning. That actually connects Ottawa from Kingston. And it was built originally, and it started in 1832, to really protect Canada against maybe Americans invading Canada.
So we went up to visit.
We were invited to come up, and because of the grandfather, they actually had a small cottage on an island in the Rito Waterway, which was very unique.
So Marge had her little motorboat, and so she would zip over and pick us up, and we go back to the island, where their little.
It was a one-house island. I mean, you couldn't build, I'm sure, more than.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's very unique.
But anyway, we were up there visiting one time, and she says, Jill, I want to show you something. So it was in Athens. That's in Ontario, right? I think. Anyway, can anybody guess what it was? Murals. Yes. To which she said, Cuba can do this. So when the bank turned 100 in 2001, Jim said, well, what can we do? And I said, we could do a mural. So we have the wall, let's do a mural. So that was the beginning of our mural project. But
Hi, Tina.
so I still have the brochure from Athens in Ontario, that's where it was. And anyway, it shows the murals there. But that's where Marge gave us the idea to do the murals. So
Well, just to go on a little bit, you all probably know Merle was a giant Notre Dame grad, through and through. And so in 1978, we went with Merle and Marge to a Missouri Notre Dame game. Notre Dame was, it was there. Notre Dame was second or third in the nation. They were Ray, we have a box seat we've saved for you right up front.
Appreciate it. Sorry I'm late, excuse me. Let me borrow the seat. I'll remove to the rear.
And Missouri was, of course, our normal lowly self, but it was quite a game. Back and forth, the defensive, 3 or 4 times Notre Dame was close to score, but our defense held. There was a point when we did kick a field goal, and then they came down, but they weren't going to settle for a field goal. They were going to score a touchdown. Anyway, at the end, we held, and Missouri upset number 2 or 3 ranked Notre Dame.
M-I-Z.
Notice,
We were with you.
And this is what Merle,
yes,
this is what
we had a
Merle
group.
looked like.
and so you wouldn't
Really, it was.
you wouldn't
I'm not
believe
kidding.
it was a devastation for Merle. And of course, the bet was that whoever lost, you were going to put the other team's pennant in the back window of your car for a week. Well, Monday morning, Merle's car had a mechanical problem. It went into the shop for a whole week. And that's the truth.
That is the truth.
So it was quite a event. And Betty, I can't remember who all went. We had a group that went. I'm trying to remember.
There was you. I was trying to think of that the other day too.
You all went, and
you and Merle and Marge. It seemed like there was Dennis and Dennis.
Uh-huh.
Dennis and.
right,
And
okay.
uh,
And
do you remember the big statue of Jesus, I guess, at Notre Dame? And after the game was over and Notre Dame had lost, Merle said, "Well, look at that statue," and it was going like. It wasn't, but anyway, he liked to dig that in there.
well, he was a dying in the heart Notre Dame fan, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite an event. Jill, you want to anything?
I just had a few
Yeah.
things about, Marge, Marge's family was the Grisadicks from St. Louis, and they were in the an old beer family, and I think they eventually sold out to Falstaff. But anyway, they were, but that Grisadich family goes back a long, long way. In fact, I think they were the oldest beer company in St. Louis. Yeah. So, but eventually, I think they did sell out to. And the Grisadich brothers also sponsored the St. Louis Cardinals in the 1940s.
Mhm.
So they go back a long way, and they would eventually sell to Falstaff. So I have that, and then
There's his chair.
yes, well, we'll skip around. So I had seen this, I think I'd been at Plaza Frontenac, and I saw this idea, and it was a charitable auction where they had chairs. So I said to Marge, I said, this is such a good idea. Well, I swear to God, if there was a chair sitting by the side of the road, ready for the trash to pick up, she probably stopped and picked it up and said, we can do something with this. I mean, we had so many chairs. I brought a chair because this is one of Marge's that she did and her needlepoint. So that's in our great room at home. So that's a special one. But she had, and here's the chair to walk. I can just kind of show you what some of them were. But she had people that were, maybe they were, like, I remember Ed Smith, for example. You all know Ed. He did a chair. And then she'd get somebody else to do it. Shelley Steiger, yeah, of course. And, just all these different people and they were all different modes of, art. But anyway, it really was a fun charitable auction. It was a fun fundraiser that we did. Let's see. Another thing, Jim, about the Flemings, though, didn't they also have remember the concrete mixers that were kind of like a cone shape, and they went round and round? I think that her family had that too.
Yeah, it was a new product. Everything that they invented.
Yeah.
Ray, while you're here, I mentioned at the start, of course, Flemming Manufacturing moving to Cuba in '52. Wasn't one of the reasons that we had a building in place for them? Can you remember?
No, I was just a sophomore in high school.
Okay.
I was interested in basketball.
Okay. I was thinking.
I don't remember for sure, but they made concrete block machines.
Right.
That was one of the main things they made.
Right. Yeah, there was an original Cuba development. It wasn't group.
Yeah.
And they actually sold stock. My grandfather was one of the stockholders, and they would build a building, and they'd get a company, and then give them a good deal, but they'd buy it, and they use that money to build the next building, and so on. I think that Flemming took them up on that, and
Could be.
so I'm pretty sure I read that someplace. But anyway, go on, Jill. You were gonna.
We talked about tennis. Did we talk about tennis?
We didn't talk about tennis.
Tennis was a big deal too, because we were all tennis players, and we had tournaments and for several years.
Mm-hmm.
And there were several private courts, and then the public courts, and people would come from all over.
Marge was one of the helped to organize this.
Yeah.
And she had the vision, but it was a Cuba Open tennis tourney. It was an annual Labor Day tourney. People, and I had played in some Missouri Valley tourneys back in my college days, so I had some idea maybe how to run a tourney. But we had 4 or 5 private courts, 2 public courts. Every court was scheduled, but then on Saturday evening there was a barbecue and all that. So it got to be a social thing. People were coming each year from Kansas City, St. Louis. At times they had like 100 some odd players, and really some very good tennis. Marge, of course, as she always did, had the vision for a lot of all this. We were sort of the doers, but it was a very positive thing for a while. It got to the point, though, that the older players were retiring and there weren't young ones coming up and everything.
Now pickleball's taken over.
Yes.
But I think maybe '96 was the last year. Yeah, so I guess I should mention Marge was the director of our bank for 42 years. Always our longest serving director we had and everything. And she always had a lot of big picture ideas. She was almost sort of ahead of her time. And, opportunities for the banks are things we should think about and everything. And you gradually learned if you had an idea, maybe I better run it by Marge to see what she thinks. Because sometimes she was a step or two ahead of you and everything.
Marge always, I have a quote from her. She said, people would say, what do you do in a small town? And she said, just bloom where you're planted. Amazing things may happen. And that truly was Marge's. And then you think of all the plays and things that we had. Does anybody remember all of those? Maybe you all.
Well, yes, Marge went to New York. I don't remember who she went with or whatever, but anyway, she came home
With
and
notes.
she
Probably
she
taking
had.
notes like crazy.
I'm sorry.
She was probably taking notes like crazy.
She was taking notes, and she came home and we got together and anyway, so we got together and started to get some ideas flowing. And she had all these notes from whatever play she had seen in New York. Anyway, so that was fun. So that ended up with Holly Follies. It was a Christmas program, and she was the producer and ended up doing a lot. But anyway, so that was always a fun thing, and we kept. Martha was very musical. She and I both were directors of our choirs. I'm Presbyterian, she was Catholic, but we switched music, and we would go ahead and she'd give me some music she liked with her. We both had young choirs, and so anyway, that was kind of fun because it would be music that I would not have known about, and probably I gave her some too, but whatever. Anyway, so that was fun.
Well, there was Holly Folly Dollies, but then there were two other plays after that, right? There were three plays.
Well, well, the Heron.
Ralph Heron and
Yeah,
Jane
I think there were three of those. But Christmas ones, we did the Holly Follies, and I think we did a couple more. But anyway, Marge was always involved.
Yeah. Well, she and Ralph Heron, Jill, you might know more than I did, but they organized.
Well, we even went into, what was it?
I'm sorry.
We even went into St. Louis.
Oh, took the place into the city, right? Yeah.
I can't remember what it wasn't Fon, but it's. Was it? It wasn't Fon, but it was another one. Florissant. Maybe it was Florissant?
Florissant, I think.
Florissant.
It was Florissant.
Florissant Valley.
Yeah. And then we also took one of the shows to Rella.
Yeah. And people have.
Why, interrupted his lunch, huh?
Hey there.
Oh, Lord, I'm gone. Enjoy, Ray. Take care.
Okay, Kevin. Yeah, Ralph Heron and Marge would organized these three plays, which were, and then one went into St. Louis, and as Elle said, you also performed in Rolla.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Tell them about what's in this box, Jill.
Oh, so going back to Marge's family, she was a Griesedek. And that's the beer family that, and it dates back to Germany in the 1700s. And it was the oldest beer family in St. Louis. And the Griesedek brothers actually sponsored the radio for the St. Louis Cardinals. And they would, I think I said, would eventually sell to Falstaff. But the Griesedek brothers were a big beer market. And but her name was Marjorie Kern, which I think was her mother's name, maiden name. So she was Marjorie Kern Flemming. And so the Kerns had shaving mugs.
I'm sorry, they had what?
Shaving mugs. As in shaving mugs.
Okay.
So I went online on, I think it was eBay or one of those. And here it is a Kern August Kern Barber Supply Company, St. Louis, Missouri. So I'm donating this to the museum.
Oh, wonderful.
But anyway, it was just kind of fun. And I think it might have been eBay. So, the people just buy things and then, I guess, again, I don't know. So that's kind of a fun thing. What else was I going to say?
One thing, since we're filming, we want to get on record, but Marge was actually also a big, supporter of the school. One thing, she was on the school board for several terms. I'm not exactly how many, but she was involved, and wherever Marge was, she was a leader in a quiet way at times, but she was one of those people you just really knew who the leader was.
She graduated, of course, from Kirkwood Schools, and then when she decided to move back to St. Louis, she moved. Her condo that she had was basically either the school was across the street or it was where the school was, where she had gone to school. So she was moving back home, really.
She was a Northwestern grad.
Yeah, she graduated from Northwestern
School.
University, and and then we mentioned that they had the concrete thing. We mentioned that, and in 1959 they owned the Rio Grande Imports. Remember that? And I think they just operated out of their home
They did
for quite a while, actually.
for about 10 years or so.
Yeah. And
But she was, of course, very involved with the Arts Council and things they did. Viva Cuba.
then later she would get involved with Viva Cuba, and that's when we went to Athens, and she said, "I want to show you something," and then
That led to
Cuba
murals
can do
and
this, and
one thing
so,
to the other.
yeah, and so
What's that, Betty?
It's easier for you to get up than me.
the other thing she remember how involved she was with the Osage when this is all Osage and Osage, but she was very involved with the Osage and the history of the Osage in what was his name, the chief
Ready to
Standing
see?
Standing Bear.
Standing Bear.
See, that
Well,
just came
and
out
we,
too.
with Merle and I think Dave and Judy, but we were invited to go down for the dance,
The
Ray? What's the right
dances.
way?
The dances.
And they're
the dances.
they're very solemn dances. They're not
That was
party
about 4
dances.
or
They're
5 years ago.
very solemn dances.
But we went down for two
Oh,
days, and
oh.
they were very nice and saw the dances and everything. And I know Ray, of course, did that too.
We went down, but we went down numerous times. They had 3 different dances in 3 different places in the month of June.
It was Johnny.
They danced at Hominy and Grey Horse and at Pawhuska.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever want to see something that's super interesting, we're all welcome. You're welcome. They have big arbors way out in the middle of nowhere, and they drave. And I'm sorry, I'm not taking over.
No.
They dress in native costumes. They do dances that I do not understand the language. I'm sorry, but they're all done a certain way, and they're normally about songs about your family or an event, and they are really, it's like Jim and Jill said, they're really interesting to watch. The only thing you can't do is, of all the things inside your arbor, you cannot take a picture. You're not allowed to take a picture of the dances. If you'd like to, in fact, I got a phone call, and boy, it wasn't a good thing to have a phone call. Yeah, one of I taking a picture. I said no, but it was super. They have become super good friends through Marge and her donation out here for the big statues. Good friends. We are now a sister city to Pawhuska, and so it's turned out great, and Jim can tell you it really has.
Well,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Jim.
Ray made a good point, we should have emphasized, but a lot of the Osage Monument and everything that's in the visitor center is due to really Marge and her donations and her work. You might mention the head,
What is that?
the buffalo head.
The buffalo head. She was bound and determined she was going to get a buffalo head. And so, my
Yeah,
golly. Okay.
And
My
she
golly,
did.
she did.
Here's a picture that Betty have, Marge and Merle. It says Matt's godparents.
Aw.
I want you to just pass it around because a lot of people don't know what Merle looked like.
Mm-hmm.
They are godparents of our youngest son, Matt.
Merle was a live wire. You go to dances and he'd be dancing with all the cute girls and everything. And it was a party whenever you were around Merle.
We ran around with Merle and Marge, Norm and I did.
Uh-huh.
This is before all the other stuff. We met them through church. So I have a lot of cute stories, which I'm not going to burden you with.
Well, tell it.
Betty, this is the time. Tell us a few stories.
Well,
We caught you
I
off
wouldn't
guard.
know where to start.
Well, just pick one or two.
Let's see. Well, we decided we'd all go on a float trip. And I hope Kim's around, but she was there with us too. So Merle set it all up. I don't know what company, I mean, this has been so many years ago, I don't remember what company he set it up with. But anyway, we had 3 canoes, and it was Marge and Merle and the 3 kids, and then us and our 3 kids. So we parked our trailers. Now we stayed all night. So somewhere or another, our trailers were at a mile or so down the river, 10 miles for all I know. And we all get into the canoes. Okay. Merle had, I think, Mark and Tom in his canoe. And Norman had myself and Matt, and I don't know if Kim was in that canoe or not. And then Marge had whatever was left over. So in the process of going down the river, which I don't know which river it was now, there was a little island right in the middle, and you could go either way. So naturally, Norman goes on the right, old Merle goes on the left. And about halfway through, we hear whoop, 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 whoop. And it is so funny when I think about it. And we both thought, oh Lord, they've turned over. But they didn't turn over. They were just backwards. And it was so funny, I'll never forget that. But we had a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got to our trailers, everybody was tired, naturally, and we went in and got cleaned up, and it started to rain. So Merle had, or somebody, maybe Norman, had steaks for that night. So when it started to rain, Merle, being Merle, said, well, okay, Norman, he said, you do the steaks and I'll fix a drink. Which means he wouldn't have to get outside. So that was one of our, and then we went to, you all know that Merle had a racing horse.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So we had to go watch that one time. And he said, now don't be afraid to bet on it. So like fools, they all did. And the thing lost, I don't know, 10 yards back or whatever. So they never let him live that down. John Drummond was with us that time. Boy, every time he sees Merle, he'd dig him just a little bit how much money he lost. So that's all. I thought it'd be interesting for people to see what Merle looked like.
Right.
Because he and Norm had a nice relationship through church, actually. And Marge is the one that got me to run for school board. I was the dumbest person that was ever on the school board. I knew nothing. But I guess I closed it up pretty good. There you go.
Ray? Are there something you'd like to bring up?
So the horse's name, one of the horses' names, they had two horses, and they were in business with Ron Sweeney, which had Rio Grande import. And one of the horses was named Mine Tuck. I don't know how you spell that. He was a quarter horse that was turned into a racehorse that they got in New Mexico. They bought him back, and the other one was, I can't remember the name, that was their most famous horse. I think it came in third one time. The horse business was a lot of fun, but the horses weren't very good picks.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were good. I remember Merle, later on in life, he had a very unique hairstyle. Merle was getting bald on top, so he grew all his hair on one side and just kind of flopped over. And I said to my mom one time, I said, boy, that's interesting. And then about that time, we were someplace together, Mom, Dad, and Flemmings, and a big gust of wind came up, and all of a sudden this whole thing. Of course, I started to say something which I get poked in the side, and I'm not kind of a cute remark, I'm probably going to say. It was just a lot of fun. And back to the reason I met Marge, we got in together because I collected August Kern Barber Supply Company, and she really was a big collector of her grandfather, great-grandfather's stuff. She had one of the best collections, and they had straight razors, they had mugs, they had barber chairs, and one of the most prized things that they had you go into a barber shop and you wanted to get a shave. A man would, well, I guess a woman, but a man, they go in and you would ask for your mug. Well, the Kern would design a mug for you. If you were a railroad engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, you got your own mug. You had your own brush and your own soap, and they would put it in this case on the wall. So you go, Jim would go in and want to shave, they'd get his mug. So they specialized, and all their mugs were hand painted in St. Louis. They had a lot of artists with them. I mean, a lot of artists. Basically, all of them were men for whatever reason at that time. And they were super. Well, we got together because I collected mugs, she collected mugs, and that's a long story, but she had a super collection one time of her August Kern stuff. Really, it was very, very interesting.
I think Tom inherited that.
Did he?
At one time, yeah.
Yeah, he did. He inherited it, and all of a sudden it got broken up, and Marge was super proud of that. And I would be too. It was great history. She was just as proud as much as on one side as a Greasedick for the side. Really, she liked that Kern side very much. Greasedick went in business in 1857.
Wow.
Okay.
I'd like to say one more thing. I just thought of it. This pillow here caused trouble between Marge and her mother because, well, Marge had taken me in and met her mom, and her aunt lived with her in St. Louis at that time. And so her mother came back out to Cuba sometime, I don't know when it was, and Marge brought her out to the house, and we had cake and cookies or whatever. And Marge was showing her through the house while I was getting stuff ready. And I had this on the bed. So anyway, we went through all whatever we were doing, and Marge, a day or so later, said, I got in trouble. I said, how come? She said, well, that pillow that I bought at one of your auctions, my mother made it for me, and she didn't know I'd put it in the auction.
Oh, no.
And she was a little aggravated at me. So anyway, that's how I always think of this pillow.
But you have it now.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's cute. These were pictures too that from Flemming Manufacturing. A nice picture of Merle, so I'm coming to pass these around as well. If you want to see those, kind of shows you what they're.
Flemming, as you all probably know, but they had sales all over. A lot were in South America, and there were many times some of these South American airlines weren't quite as reliable as they are today. So Merle might take one flight and Marge would take another flight getting into Buenos Aires or Rio or something, and then they'd meet with their clients. But it was pretty common at times for them to take separate blankets just to protect themselves. And if you go on, Doug.
I was going to say, Fleming machines are still being produced and local at Asheville Machine, here in town. And if you go on their website, they've got a really neat history of the machine, Fleming machine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I remember whenever I played Merle in the tour 2 or 3 years ago,
Yeah.
I remember getting a lot of information off of that. But they own the patents and proprietary data, engineering specifications, and they still produce that product.
I remember when Fleming actually sold, Doug. You remember?
In 2000, Fleming was acquired by Eagle Business Technologies, or Building Technologies. In 2005, company merged with Reed, became Reed Fleming Industrial, and then Ashford purchased them in 2017.
Okay.
Another thing that Marge was very good at was bridge. She was an excellent bridge player, right? Yeah.
Yes, she was, and continued after she moved back to the city. I mean, there were 4 of us that played here, and but anyway, when she went back to the city, she still was playing, and she's an excellent player.
And the funny thing about her moving back to St. Louis was that our son Andy just lived a stone's throw from Marge, and they still have it. Andy still lives in that house, but where Marge's condo was, it was just right across the street.
Probably 50 steps. You could almost go from Marge's building to Andy's house and everything. Marge, of course, was very involved in Mary Queen of Peace there. And she was honored
as
one of their oldest members. I know there was some recognition for her 3-4 years ago, something like that.
And she'd always say, "Oh, Jill," she said, Andy was doing, because Andy and his family would go to Mary Queen of Peace. And so Andy was doing something up in front of the congregation. And here was Audrey, their little girl.
5-year-old.
Well, she's 5 now, and she was sitting at the very back. And Marge says, "Jill, you should have seen Audrey. She was blowing kisses to her dad and waving." She said, "Oh, it was cute."
Back to the Osage, Marge and I took a trip through the Missouri History Museum in St. Louis. Anyway, went all the way to Kansas City area and then up north. And anyway, so we got to this one place. And of course, as you say, she's really indulged in the Osage. Anyway, so we got to this one place, and it was going to be really a neat place. And I got off the bus, and she said, "Well, I'm not going to get off the bus just right now." Well, okay, all right, fine. So I went and did whatever I needed to do. Anyway, so pretty soon I'm coming back to the place where they were selling books and stuff, and here she is. She's buying up these books about the Osage. It was so funny because she didn't care so much about seeing whatever the thing was that we were supposed to see. Anyway, so I always thought that was kind of funny because here we are, in wherever. It was north, and I can't remember where it was, but anyway. But she was so involved in that.
Jill, I think when Marge passed on, didn't she donate a lot of the books, Kim?
Yeah.
Which are right here.
Books here,
What else do you have? I've covered all my topics. I'm sure there are a few others. I'm sure there are more stories out here.
Yeah, I do have one thing. That she was there. She was a member of the seminar club, and that's a federated women's club, and she was very involved in that pretty much from the beginning.
And I think Marie Marr was.
I'm sorry?
Marie Marr too.
Marie Marr was in that. My mom was in that.
Okay, because
were you ever in that? I
You
thought
name
so.
it.
Yeah.
You name it, they were in it.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom was.
Oh yeah, she was.
You were mentioning you and Marge playing in churches, but she was the organist for the Catholic Church for 32 years, was it?
A lot.
34, 32, something.
A lot.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, we lived in Cuba. Marge and Merle moved out to South 19, had the beautiful home, and then we moved the next year, became their neighbor right across the street. And my memories of Marge go far back to when I was 6 years old and older. Merle was the first guy in town to have a swimming pool in his backyard. Wasn't a very big pool, but it was a swimming pool. And they had clay tennis courts on the side of their house. They had the horses. Then came Kathy and Tom and Bill, and it was just an amazing little neighborhood out there. They had Watsons on one side of them, the Sageries behind them, the Dwines in front of them, and they had a small house right adjacent to their beautiful home. And I don't know that they were related to Marge. Their names were Stokes, and they were very old, and she was blind. And Marge introduced me to the Stokes, so that when I would go, I was in sophomore in high school or so at the time, and I would go over and visit Marge and Merle, and then they would send me over to visit the Stokes because the Stokes never did have much company. Mrs. Stokes was blind, and Mr. Stokes couldn't hardly get around. But I just remember them, both Marge and Merle, helping out them until they died. And I still have no idea what the connection was. But they were wonderful people. Marge had a voice that shook a room. So strong and powerful, and she was just a wonderful, wonderful human being. And I have very fond memories of everything about her.
One thing I had down here was that in 1961, Cuba was the first arts council in the state of Missouri.
Yeah, I think so. She and Mary Marr, I was one, two, and
I can remember they used to make those lions, not lions, but leopards. What are they called? They make them out of,
Mache.
huh?
I don't know
Papier-mâché?
what you're talking about.
Oh, they would paint chickens out of it, and they'd paint the lion,
Ceramic?
Paper mache.
no, it's a harder substance. Almost like concrete, but it's, and the Arts Council, precursor to it, all the women in town were part of it, and that was part of the things that they did was just get together and paint these chickens. The thing was molded into a chicken or a
Oh, like a ceramic.
ceramic,
Okay.
exactly. And
well, Mary Marr was big on this.
they were all big.
Yeah. She did a lot of that, didn't she? She did a lot of that. Murray did. Her grandchildren were in here the other day. Who's Murray Marr?
Oh, really?
Great grandchildren, I guess.
Huh.
Yeah, Kathy was back. I can't think when it was,
Yeah, not too long ago.
but
Yeah.
she lives in Colorado
Colorado.
now, and Bill and Susan live in Kansas City area, so they're around, but I don't think they get back much.
Well, they have a grandson that kind of made it to the big time in the tennis.
Yeah, we saw him
business.
when they had a little celebration of life.
Yeah, he was playing with some. I mean, he was
What
right
is
up
his
there,
name?
good himself.
Grant?
Grant.
Grand.
But Grant would. He played with
I
two
would,
guys. They actually won the Wimbledon men's doubles at one point. I mean, they were that level
Jack
of players that
Jack
Grant was
Sock.
playing with.
Jack Sock.
Jack Stock. Yeah, Jack Stock. I don't know if he's still up there, but he was, doubles is a whole different game from singles. You could be the best singles player, but, you pair somebody up with doubles, but you get killed probably by some of these. Yeah, Jack Stock, though. And Grant, doesn't he still teach tennis, or can you remember?
I think he's a pro somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Is it?
And then they had a granddaughter who
Getting
followed
old
Marge
is hard
in
on the
music
kidneys.
because
Oh, yeah.
she was on cruise ships and everywhere else, playing her piano and singing for years.
He was a jazz pianist.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just incredible family. And I went to Canada with Marge. Judy and I did
Okay.
a couple of times with Marge and Tom. And her daughter Kathy would go up for a month, and then as she was leaving, Marge and Tom would go up for another month, and we'd get a week with them. And what an amazing place that is, just a series. It's a river system that they dynamited into a canal system that went for 150 miles, and just the most beautiful place in North America. It's just amazing. And they would go up there every year. Merle went up there in the 70s, I think, and built the cabin with help from others and the boys also. And it's just become a paradise place for the family and for anyone who was lucky enough to be asked to go up.
And there was certainly some sadness with Tom and his battle with schizophrenia.
Yeah.
And that, and she was always a champion for mental health. And
Well, her brother was killed in World War II.
her brother was killed.
And then, of course, Merle died very suddenly, May 12th of 1980. And I think Merle and Marge, if I recall, they spent their honeymoon on the island in tents.
I think that's right.
Which I'm
And
pretty sure that's
And it
right.
rained.
I don't know.
Well, it was memorable.
And
I'm sure.
Yeah, it rained and they were in their tent.
Right? Isn't that right, Al? Okay.
Anyway, and they ended up deciding they needed to get real, so there was some relative close by.
But there was
so they
no
were
cottage
on
in
the-
those days. But they were on, the family island. Which was,
And they still own that because I know Kathy.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Kathy.
They'll go there every year.
yeah.
So that's good.
well, Jill, you have any other stories? We've gone through what I had. But they were very special people, and we were honored to honestly have friends like Marge and Merle.